Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, ladies and gentlemen, wherever you're situated on this great big beautiful blue globe floating through the void of Yah's creation. It's Monday, the 8th of December, 2025, and as always, you can always count on their consistency. The mainstream legacy media propagandize, gaslight, and lie, and guess what, you guys?
You won't be trusted anymore.
Yeah, I hate to be redundant and keep on repeating myself, but at least they're consistent. Yeah, they just manipulate and gaslight and just leading everybody down the garden path. That's why I rail against the mainstream media, and I've been doing so for 30 flaming years. And I got to tell you, the word frustration doesn't do it for me. You know, I mean, it just doesn't change. And people, for some reason, just keep on buying it. But thanks to modern day technology, yes, the internet, yes, social media, yes, the truth is getting out there, but it's still being throttled. It's still being manipulated. And yes, indeed, censored. Anyway, welcome to the Monday edition of the WTF Reports. I'm Dave vonKleist, your host, and I'm here with the facts, WTF. And if those facts make you exclaim WTF, well, then so be it. Anyway, sometimes you got to smack the donkey between the eyes with a 2x4 to get their attention. And for some reason, I don't know, a lot of people are resistant to exposing themselves to ideas and concepts that challenge their beliefs. And that's unfortunate, but I think they call that Stockholm Syndrome, don't they? Anyway, okay, the WTF reports are brought to you in part by the Wave Watch, and I haven't checked into what their status is as far as how many of the of 2.0 Wave Watches they still have in stock. They may be out of them. I don't know. But if you're curious to find out about what the Wave Watch is all about, go to our website, TheWTFReports.com, and the pop-up window will take you right to a place where you can read about and learn about the Wave Watch. And if you decide to get one, you'll get a massive discount. I believe they're giving you 25% off of the Wave Watch 2.0 if they still have them in stock, because they're rolling out the new updated 2.2. So anyway, that said, check out our website, TheWTFReports.com. All right, that said, I'm going to open the phone lines. I have to be honest with you, over the weekend, I have basically stayed pretty much unplugged. I was involved in our annual presentation of A Christmas Carol. Yeah, the old story by Charles Dickens, with Ebenezer Scrooge and Tiny Tim and Bob Cratchit and Ebenezer's 7-year dead partner, Jacob Marley. And that's the part I get to play. So, and we've been doing this now 7 years. Every year we do this at the beautiful, beautiful Conrad Mansion in Kalispell, Montana. So anyway, I was involved in that all weekend, and we had a Thursday night show, a Friday night show. We had 2 shows on Saturday, 2 shows yesterday. So I have not been keeping up with a lot of the current events over the weekend. I'm kind of upset that I didn't get to watch 60 Minutes last night with Leslie Stahl interviewing Marjorie Taylor Greene. But hopefully I'll get up to speed with that. Anyway, we got a caller, and I see it's Cynthia. Hello, my dear. Welcome to the Monday show. How are you?
Hi. Good morning. You may have to nickname me Old Faithful.
Who? Me?
Nickname me Old Faithful.
Oh, you? Okay. No problem.
So I'm going to bring you the most bizarre item today, I think.
Okay.
I spotted this over the weekend on a site that is kind of sketchy and does have a lot of clickbait, but sometimes has really interesting stuff that pans out and is the first place I find stuff. So there is one of the contributors who is asserting that Pearl Harbor was a false flag.
Okay, hold on. Before you go any further, what website are you talking about?
Rumor Mill News.
Okay, yeah, I'm aware of that. Mm-hmm.
Yep, sometimes, the stuff on Trump's ear not being damaged came through on there first with pictures. That stuff's really disappeared, but, stuff does come through that is useful. So I screen it so you guys don't have to.
Okay.
And then I alert you when I see something.
Okay, so Pearl Harbor was a false flag. Yes, I'm aware of that. Yeah.
They're saying that Diamond Head observers said there were no Japanese planes.
Okay.
And supposedly that was a recorded interview, supposedly. And remember, I've seen that there was a newspaper article the week before saying that Pearl Harbor was going to be hit.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Just like people have known, FDR knew in advance.
Yeah.
And didn't do anything, but maybe it was a false flag. I mean, how hard is it to paint some planes and sit it overboard? And according to Mike Gaddy, the bankers were already buying up newspapers before the Civil War. So they had a lot of control of the news and the methods of distributing information. I know from the AIM people, the American, what are those people called? Right now they call themselves CATS, Christians Addicted to Truth.
Okay.
They're on Gab as the Gabriel's horn.
Mm-hmm.
And so where was I going with that? Sorry.
We were talking false flag. False flag. Okay.
The international banksters already own the radio stations. They initiated the radio stations. They actually stole the technology from a European inventor, and
okay, wait. We're a bit of a shotgun blast here. So far, you brought up Pearl Harbor. You brought up this. So let's stick to one because I get confused very easily. So what are we talking about here?
Well, I was just pointing out that there is this tiny bit of information there. It doesn't give a whole lot of sources. It gives a little bit of sources. And I'm not a war buff, and I don't have the books and documents and stuff. So I don't know. Did they actually shoot down any of these so-called Japanese planes and verify they were Japanese? Or they could have been Japanese flying planes, but not necessarily Japanese official Japanese military. The banksters could have hired, guns for hire, pilots for hire.
Mm-hmm.
So they could have financed it and separate from the Japanese government. Although, the warmongers are in all the cultures. If we look, there are tentacles everywhere. They're a big octopus.
Yeah.
I hate to malign octopuses.
Give octopi a bad name, yeah.
I hate to malign those creatures. They're known for their independent nature.
Yeah.
So I think people should think that this needs to be explored because, I'm an advocate that we have the right to audit that Constitution and all the expenditures and recover assets.
Mm-hmm.
And if you have a false flag, you've been tricked into spending money and wasting lives. And I think all these wars are actually to destroy Christian lives. If you look at the two cities we supposedly nuclear, in Japan, those were Christian cities, large Christian populations there. Nagasaki and Hiroshima. So there's a common theme going on. And it's really time to consider all possibilities. And I don't have the wherewithal to research that, but maybe among the people we can put the information out there.
I don't know. Well, I will say that with the internet being as expansive as it is, and all of the information, misinformation, malinformation, and basic propaganda that's being thrown out there, it's hard to know what's true and what isn't. I mean, we have to look at our history. And I was talking with a friend of mine over the weekend. For example, the World's Fairs back in the turn of the century, these huge, beautiful, intricate, elaborate buildings that were built and then 2 years later after the fair's over, they tear them all down. And how did they build them? How did they go up so quickly, and why were they torn down so quickly? And you look at some of these cities, look at San Francisco way back in the late 1800s, and it was all built up, but there weren't that many people. They're riding around in horses and buggies, and yet you've got these big, elaborate, beautiful buildings. Where did they come from? And then we start talking about Tartaria. So, I mean, the bottom line here is that we don't know what our history, what part of it is true and what isn't, because everything has been rewritten. As they say, history is written by those who hang the heroes. So, I don't blame people for taking a second look at all of the different issues. You brought up Pearl Harbor. Yeah, and I do believe, of course, it was a false flag. I don't know if there were, no planes. People talk about, the 9/11 issue and that with the no planers and stuff like that. I don't know. You have to take a good hard look at everything these days.
I didn't say there were no planes. I said there were no Japanese planes.
Oh, okay.
The configuration of a plane. Aren't you the one whose father was a jet fighter pilot?
Yeah, my dad was. He was Top Gun. Yeah, he was a trainer pilot, test pilot, fighter pilot. Yeah, my dad was pretty high up in the in the echelon of the Air Force.
Plane, and it didn't matter what the markings were because it was high up, but you could identify that what plane that was.
Pretty much,
right?
Yeah.
So it didn't have to be a Japanese plane. It could just have Japanese painting on it, markings on it.
Well, not necessarily, because the MiG, the kamikaze, I forget what they called their planes and stuff, but they were, the Japanese were building their own planes, and they were different than the American-made planes. So
right.
Anyway.
Right.
So where are we going with this? Where are we going this, my dear?
Well, it came through around Saturday on Rumor Mill News, and if people want to eyeball that and pass it on to their war buffs that they know of to say, hey, is there anything to back this up that we can find now? And that you may not be able to use Google. I'm finding that I'll hear a site recommended on one of these conservative radio stations, and I try to get to that site, and it won't let me get there. I have to go around it. I have to go to DuckDuckGo or I haven't really explored the one that Sam Fetzer recommends. It's a Russian site.
Oh, yeah.
And I remember Robert David Steele saying several years ago that information, even on the Wayback Machine, was being changed. It was for sale.
Yeah. So.
I've actually been in that building, the Internet Archives, and to find that might have been a Tartaria building, by the way.
Yeah, right.
It was a magnificent building. They bought it. I think it had been a church at one point.
Okay, so, you got anything else? I've got a couple of things I want to get to today.
I'm going to drop this bomb on you. And,
well, we have to be really careful because there's so much, like I said, there's so much misinformation and bogus, news stories that are being put out there. We have to do some research, because we all get snookered now and then. I've been a victim of that myself. So this is why you have to be, due diligence and do some research on it.
Absolutely. That's why I say that I have the information, but I can't research it. Mm-hmm. People who can research it need to let us know. And if so, the person who's putting out the misinformation, I'm pointing in their direction, and they need to be outed as opposition, the controlled opposition. I went to a book fair yesterday, and I was walking through this with all these progressive people. I'm going, some of these people are legitimate, and other people are controlled oppositions, but which ones?
Yeah, right. Well, there's, at the UN, I think I played this clip last week, Antonio Gutierrez was addressing the UN, and he was talking about censorship. He was talking about, we have to stop all this misinformation and stuff like that, and that's very slippery slope. They're doing everything that they can to silence anyone who criticizes the globalist agenda, and whether it be, climate change or population reduction or, the energy crisis or, Israel, certain things you can't talk about. They are verboten, so. Anyway, I'm going to move on here, Cynthia.
Okay.
All right. You have a good day. Take care. Bye-bye. Okay. The phone number. Yeah, we're open. Oh, there's another one. Here we go. Okay. Hello, caller. You're on the air. And who are you and where are you calling from? Hello, caller. One more time. 3 strikes and you're out. You're connected. If you're listening on your device.
Okay. That's what happened. It's Mike from Connecticut.
Oh, hey, Mike. How you doing?
I am so glad that you were talking about the history.
Mm-hmm.
Because our world is not what it seems to be, but on the video sites, they've been getting flooded with videos about the history of the world, including Tartaria, and there were catastrophes that have been removed from history. There was a great mud flood.
Yeah, the mud floods.
All over the world.
Yeah.
Which buried these buildings. So they're going into buildings and they're finding out they're not on the first floor. They're on like the 5th floor.
Yeah.
And then they go down. And then other things they find is infrastructure for the city is there. All the sewage, all this other stuff, it's all there.
Mm-hmm.
Which means that it had to have been built before the city.
Right.
So you're looking at cities like old cities like Paris, and it turns out they were planned. First came the infrastructure, then came the buildings, then came a disaster which has been erased from history. And included in that disaster are missing people, no children, orphanages for thousands and thousands of kids that were transported all over the world. And then you have the pictures from early photography of the 1840s going to about 1870.
Right.
And the streets are empty. There are no people.
Yeah, I've seen some of those. Yeah, I mean, these, aerial shots are shots that are taken from the taller buildings, and you see the whole city, and there's no people. I'm going, wait a minute, where are all the people? I know, it's really curious.
And a lot of these major cities, even in the United States, even in Canada, Toronto, Vancouver, San Francisco, there are buildings there that predate the founding of those cities when there was only a handful of people there who could not have built these buildings. But there was a disaster. It was I believe it was in the 1400s that changed the world. There was another one in 1700. And then in 7076 was more than just the finding of the United States. History was rewritten. The Bible was rewritten. And time was reset.
I've heard about that, too. There's like a missing 1,000 years. They put a 1 in front of the other numbers to make it look like it was 1,000 years, but it wasn't. I don't know.
And the first month, they changed from March. It wasn't January.
Yeah, that's true.
First month.
And that's in the Geneva Bible. It talks about in the Apocrypha, this is in the 2nd week of the first month during the Passover. I said, wait a second. The first month, the 2nd week of the first month, that would be mid-March. So, yeah, you're right. And then when you look at the months, okay, right now we're in December. DEC, Deca, is 10. Go backwards is November. Nova, that's 9. And you go backwards again to October. Oct, that's 8. And you go backwards again to September. Sept is 7. So, I mean, there's a lot to a reason to believe that we are in a screwed up calendar here.
And then, so I'm seeing a flood of videos about this. So somebody is trying to get the word out. It'd be great if we could get them to come on the show to explain all of this.
Mm-hmm.
But one of the things that got me is that there's a history professor, and he said the first day that he went into his history class, the history professor said, analyze everything, believe nothing, okay, and remember that it's the winners who write history.
That's right.
Okay, which just skews everything, including our history, and even December 7th, 1941. We're not being told the truth still.
Yeah, well, we weren't told the truth about what happened during the Second World War either. I mean, this is what the quote-unquote noticing is all about. People are saying, wait a second, we didn't know this. You know, they took Adolf Hitler's speech and ran it through AI and translated it into English so you can hear Adolf Hitler's words. And there are people posting on social media, listening to it for the first time, and their jaws are dropped open. Say, wait a second, I didn't realize he said that. I didn't realize he said this. You know, a lot of people are saying, wait a minute, wait. And again, history is written by those who hang the heroes. I'm not saying he was a hero, but I'm just saying is that it ain't what they told you in the history books.
No, not even close. And why is Ukraine so important? And why does it keep rising up in history when it's really a third world country? It's not a first-rate country. It's corrupted. It's horrible. Now,
well, isn't that the birthplace of the Khazars? I mean, isn't that where the Khazars and the Ashkenazi,
the Tatarian world, the Tatarian city was headquartered there. So all of this, you know, it's really spiritually an evil place, and that's why it keeps coming up, because there's, you know, battle in the spirit world that manifests on the earth, and that's one of the points where it manifests. Paris is another. Okay, so we've got to if you can find someone who really knows about this prehistory of the world. I'd love to find out about all the orphans. I'd love to find about the mud flood, which was all over the world.
Right.
And you know, and also it turns out, and I'll get off the phone, but it turns out that winter, as we have it now, because people are like, how did people live in the winter if they didn't have fire, they didn't have heat, they didn't have food, they didn't have this? It turns out that winter wasn't like what we have now. For 2,000 years, the world was very mild. And it turns out that our winters now, where we have snow and cold all winter, 500 years ago, that didn't happen. 400, 300, it didn't happen. We didn't, you know, you didn't have snowstorms that dropped 4 feet of snow. Didn't happen. They didn't have that kind of climate. The climate was different. So that needs to be investigated. And then one question before I go, which I saw in one of these videos, is, and you talked about the great expositions, the Eiffel Tower, took millions of tons or hundreds of thousands of tons of iron to build. Where did the iron come from? They didn't have factories for making iron, smelting, and like we have in Pennsylvania for making steel. They didn't have that. There was no mass production. And when they did it, it was all done by separate companies, and there was no uniform code or specifications for all the iron. So that wouldn't have worked. So where did the iron come from for the Eiffel Tower?
So you're asking some interesting questions. I don't know.
Well, if somebody out there knows who these people are putting out these videos, I would love it if you could get them on for an hour, just give them the show and teach the world what is really going on. So
that would be an interesting conversation, that's for sure.
Yeah, but really, check out the social media sites. I mean, every day somebody is flooding the video sites with this information about history. And prehistory is not before the year 6000 or prehistoric times. Prehistory is before like 1900. So, all right, I'll let you go.
All right,
Thanks for letting me talk.
No problem. No problem. Thanks for your contribution. You bring up some very interesting topics, and that's one that's had a lot of people scratching their heads. You know, like you said, they dig down on these old buildings and find out that the first floor is not the first floor. It's, the second or third or fourth floor. They dig down and say, and there's another floor under here. Oh, there's another floor under here. How do they get, what happened to these buildings, So you brought up some good points. So we'll have to explore.
They say in the end times our eyes will be open and we're going to learn and find out what's going on. And I think this is being open to us right now.
Well, yeah, I mean, we're finding out so much more now that, there's so many independent researchers out there now that, are internet savvy. They know how to do research. They know how to set up flow charts and go down rabbit holes. And this is, I think this is the crack in the monolith because, of course, for most of our lives, the mainstream networks had a stranglehold on information. And now, the past decade, a whole bunch of new windows have been opened. So, anyway, okay.
Well, on top of that, the Supreme Court is ruling on whether Trump can fire appointed people in non-government agencies, just such as the FTC, the FCC, the Fed, IRS, all these non-government agencies. And it looks like they're going to say yes, that he has the ability to fire the people in these non-government, non-elected positions because of what they're doing.
That's in everybody's best interest,
And it's all over the news right now. It's all over the news.
And it's not a Republican or Democrat or a liberal conservative issue here. I mean, this is something for everybody. I mean, it's a nonpartisan attempt here, to straighten things out that have been screwed up for so long. So,
non-elected officials are governing over the people and vast budgets.
Well, that brings up another topic that's seemingly unrelated. You know that I've been in touch with people around the country who are trying to reform or reassemble the petite juries. And what's the word I'm looking for? It's a constitutional fact that we were never taught. There was supposed to be not 3 but 4 branches of government. The executive, the legislative, and the judicial. And as far as judicial is concerned, we've all heard of a grand jury, but a lot of people have never heard about a petite jury. And the petite juries are supposed to be formed in every county in every state. But we were never taught about the constitutionality of the petite juries because the petite juries have the power to immediately remove any elected or appointed officials. So that's something that you listeners out there might want to check into, the jural assemblies in your state. Check it out. So, all right, well, Mike, hey, thank you for your contribution. And you opened up a big can of worms, and I definitely want to jump into it one of these days and talk about the missing history, Tartaria, and all this technology that was, literally buried under mud floods. So
that's right. Okay.
All right, well, thank you for the call. Take care. Bye-bye. Okay, yeah, it's we're turning into an open lines show today, which is fine. I always encourage people to call up and participate on the show. So if you want to do so, you're welcome to do so. 215-867-8255.
Get More Tank will save you money every month on gas. Get More Tank is a tablet with active ingredients that adds big mileage to every tank. Made in America, the Get More Tank formula is used by trucking companies and heavy industry. Now the Get More Tank formula is available to you. Get More Tank works in any gas or diesel engine, cleans your engine, lowers emissions, and you'll feel improved engine performance every time you step on the gas. Get More Tank works for cars, trucks, boats, motorcycles, four-wheelers, mowers, and blowers. Hey, if you got an engine, then Get More Tank. Contractors, electricians, plumbers, painters, and lawn service companies, Get More Tank will save you money and extend the life of your engines. If you're an owner-operator running your big rig around the town or across the country, Get More Tank will save you money too. If you're a farmer, all of your equipment can use Get More Tank. A 5-pack on sale at GetMoreTank.com for just $22.22 plus shipping. Use the promo code REDPILL101 and get 10% off. Save your money, save your engine, save the earth at GetMoreTank.com. Get More Tank is EPA registered, doesn't void warranties, results vary.
All right, let's go to Chicago. Say hi to Jerry. Jerry, thank you for holding. You're on the air. What do you got?
Hey, this is what I got for you. I started using that GetMoreTank.com back around May in 2 different vehicles. And I'll tell you what, my fuel economy went up in one of them, Toyota RAV4 2019, and went up about 4.6 miles per gallon. I keep track of it.
Wow, good for you.
And 2019 Ford Transit with a 5-cylinder inline diesel engine, I went from 15.8 average to 17.2. And I'm also putting it in my chainsaw. I haven't noticed the difference with the chainsaw. I can't figure fuel economy on that. But, hey, that's all I wanted to say to you. Have a good show.
Hey, Jerry, thank you so much for the endorsement. It's a good product. It really is. And not only that, I'm sure that everything's running better as well. I noticed that in my my Toyota Highlander. When I hit the gas, I almost feel G-forces, you know. So, hey, thank you much for that endorsement, Jerry. I appreciate that. All right, and you can get more tank by visiting our website. Go to TheWTFReports.com and click on the sponsors page, and it'll take you down to a window where you can read all about Get More Tank, why and how this fuel catalyst works so well. It'll help your engine be more efficient. You're going to have more power. And after a couple of tanks, you start to see your mileage improve, anywhere between 15 and 20%. So check it out, folks, and help us keep the lights on. I wouldn't be endorsing Get More Tank if I wasn't using it myself, and I haven't had my own positive experiences with it. So, yeah, check it out. Go to our website, TheWTFReports.com. Click on the sponsors page and get more tank. Okay, we got 37 minutes past the hour, and whatever hour you're sitting in. And I got a couple of things I want to draw your attention to. You remember when Congress was in recess back in September? They flew a whole bunch of the Democrat congressional representatives over to Blue State. Yeah, and they went over there. They were wined and dined, and they were briefed, and they were instructed, and I don't know what else happened there.
Bribery, coercion, blackmail.
I don't know if any of that was happening or not, but we know that it does happen. But anyway, all the Democrats that they were flown over there, they had their little vacation, all expenses paid, by the way, I'm sure. And then after they flew the Democrats home, they flew a whole bunch of Republican representatives and senators over there, and they were wined and dined and instructed and informed and briefed and et cetera, et cetera. And I don't know what else happened over there.
Bribery, coercion, blackmail.
Oh, I don't know if that's happening or not, but it's, I'm just asking the question, is that what happened? And so anyway, they got all the Democrats who went over, and then they came back. Then they got all the Republicans who went over there and came back. And what's going on? Well, gosh, last week, over 1,000 evangelical Christians were flown over to Israel, and they were wined and dined, and they're all patting each other on the back, and their love for this blue state is just overflowing, abundant. Oh, yes. And I don't know what happened with them.
Bribery.
All right, shut up. Maybe. And the thing is, folks, so many people are just confused about Zionism and Judaism. And the powers that be are just desperate to meld the two together. They are not. I mean, that's like saying, okay, you don't like communism? Oh, you must be an anti-Semite. Oh, what's anti-Semitism got to do with communism? Well, there are connections, but anyway. Oh, capitalism. Oh, you must be an anti-Semite. You can link any ism and just and say, okay, if you don't like that ism, you'll just call somebody an anti-Semite. Okay? And that's what's happening with Zionism. Now, all of you Christians out there that are supporting Zionism, you're a Christian Zionist. Zionist. Do you know what Zionism is? Do you? Because if you don't get yourself educated, you got to understand that the individuals who are, shall we say, over there at that blue state, they see you as subhuman. They do. It's in their Talmud. If you're not one of them, if you're not one of the little hats, you are lower than a dog. Now, they'll smile in your face and shake your hand and give you a hug and wine you and dine you and all this other stuff to convince you that they love you. Yes, we Christians and Jews have to stick together and all, but you don't understand that it's not about Judaism. It's about the Zionism part. And yes, I have no problem with the Old Testament Jews. The Old Testament Jews and the Christians have the same 10 commandments. They have the same God of Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob. They got the same prophets, Isaiah and Jeremiah, Ezekiel. They got all the same stuff going on. And that's why they are linked. That's why some folks say Judeo-Christian, okay? And I understand that. But that group of those, Old Testament Jews, the way I see it, they're in a very, very small minority of most of the quote-unquote Jews that are out there, because a lot of them are Talmudic Jews, and they're open about it. Ursula von der Leyen, at the EU said, Europe has the value of the Talmud. No, they don't. No, they don't. Not at all. And once people start digging into the Talmud and see what it says, they don't want to believe that. Oh, no, they would never say that about having sex with a 3-year-old. Yes, it does. Yes, it does. And so all of the Christians out there that are linking themselves with Zionism, and I don't know what happened to Pastor John Hagee, but, back in the 90s, he was screaming and hollering and shaking his fists against the New World Order, and I would say, yeah, you go, boy. But somewhere along the line, something happened to him. And now he's just goose-stepping right along with the Zionism that is eventually going to destroy him. And that's what it comes down. That's the way I see it. That's my own personal opinion, and I get to have that. But no, Zionism is not a good thing for Christians or for anybody. And meanwhile, the media, which is controlled by the same people, they're trying to gin up this conflict, of course, between the Christians and the Muslims. And I'm not saying that Islam is not a threat. Yeah, we all know that we have some issues, with their beliefs and their Sharia law and all that. But I don't think that's the immediate threat. I think the immediate threat is the Zionists. And if all you need to do is look at the influence that is going on. And like I said, they got over 1,000 evangelical pastors and ministers flown over there, all expenses paid, to go to Israel and hang out. Now, and then, anyway, I just wanted to throw that out there because people have got to figure out that it's not the same. And I've said it on this program before. What if we had the Zionist United States? Okay, the Zionist state of, Nevada, all right? And so they decide to take Nevada and make it into a Protestant Zionist state. So all the Protestants get to go to Nevada, and if you're not Protestant, you have to leave Nevada and leave everything that you own behind. Yeah, abandon your house, all your stuff, and if you don't like that, they get to basically unalive you. And that's sort of what's going on over there in the Middle East. As a matter of fact, there was one guy, I'm going to see if I can play this clip here. Let me see, who was this guy? His name pops up in the middle of this, but he made too much sense. Listen to this.
How can a Jew come from Ukraine?
Okay, his name is Mirama Paguda. Yeah, that's it. Yeah, Mirama Paguda. All right.
How can a Jew come from Ukraine to Palestine and say this country is mine, and you Palestinians have no place here? You can't. If you didn't have a story to tell, you'd just be a criminal. You'd be some guy coming in and stealing somebody else's land. Well, I don't want to be that. So to justify what you're doing and explain what you're doing, you develop a whole narrative. God gave us this land, and this is the ancient Israel, and we were driven out by the Romans, and now we're, a whole story like that. So now Israelis don't have to feel guilty. They're not expelling Palestinians. They're coming back to their land. The Palestinians are, now we wouldn't say resisting, because that gives too much legitimacy. So what every colonial movement does is it criminalizes the indigenous population. This is the whole story of October 7th that you hear. And here are these criminal terrorists, so here's where terrorism feeds into all of that are simply attacking us. Why? Because we're Jews, they're anti-Semites, they're human animals, as, Gallant, the Israeli defense minister, said. Once you criminalize the indigenous population, you solve the problem. We're right, we're good, we're just defending ourselves, right? And the Arabs are attacking us. So now,
okay, I'm going to stop it there. By the way, that gentleman's name I'm sorry, I got it wrong. The interviewer's name was Marima Pagoda, and she is a journalist. And the gentleman speaking, his name is Jeff Halper, and he's an Israeli-American anthropologist. So he's been doing this research for quite some time. But he's absolutely right. And I have to ask the questions, what is the difference between a prisoner and a hostage? Well, the difference is that if you're a Palestinian being held in Israel, you're a prisoner. If you're an Israeli being held in Palestine, they're a hostage. Okay, you see how the wordplay is there. All right, and this ceasefire that was going on, and they're saying, release the Israeli hostages, release the Israeli hostages, hostages. Well, what about the Palestinian prisoners? Thousands, I'm telling you. I tell you, it's thousands of prisoners. Or could we call them hostages? And a lot of them are kids, by the way. So, I mean, it's, we're talking about a double-edged sword, and we're talking about hypocrisy. So, anyway, let me see here. What time is it? Yeah, okay, it's 46 minutes past the hour, 14 minutes before the top of the hour. One thing I did want to touch on today is there's a lot of talk now about these DNA tests. They're starting to push another wave now of another virus is going to start to hit us, and we need to get those PCR tests, those big, long swabs that go up your nose. Well, I got to tell you, folks, they are collecting DNA. That's what this whole swab thing was about. It wasn't to test for CV. They were collecting DNA, all right? And as a matter of fact, I want to go back this past March. There was an article that was written by Ethan Huff, and basically it said that the DNA testing kits are a scam to develop ethnic-specific bioweapons. Whoa! Now think about that. I'm going to share with you here. It says U.S. Representative Jason Crow, Democrat from Colorado, a member of the House Intelligence Committee, is one such lawmaker who says that there are already bioweapons programs currently in development that are, quote, designed to target specific people, unquote, and that this would not have been possible if not for DNA testing services. One of the things he says that's what this is, where you can actually take someone's DNA, take their medical profile, and you can target a biological weapon that will kill that person or take them off the battlefield or make them inoperable. Yes, they have the ability to target individuals. They have the ability to target certain ethnic groups. Now, this is not news to me because 30 years ago, more than that, back in 1994, and I've talked about this in the past, the Army War College published a document called The Revolution in Military Affairs and Conflict Short of War. It was written by Stephen Metz and James Kevitt. And you can look it up. Do a search. Do your own research. I'm not making this stuff up. The Revolution in Military Affairs and Conflict Short of War. Now, what this is a scenario. Okay, they're not saying that this is what they were doing. It's explaining what they could do, how they would have a revolution without firing a shot. Okay? Now, on page 9, I read. Now, again, this is 1994, 31 years ago, campers. Okay, I quote, certain biotechnical weapons considered by some to violate the Biological Warfare Convention to which the United States is a signatory also may transgress American values regarding appropriate means. Most Americans would not support the use of a weapon designed to target only a specific racial or ethnic group in anything less than a war for survival of the nation. Could the government and military of this multi-ethnic republic face charges that it was developing or using a weapon targeting Africans, Jews, Koreans, Hispanics, etc.? Would defense against such a charge occupy the attention of policymakers to the detriment of other essential businesses? And even accidental injuries or deaths caused by, quote, non-lethal anti-material substances could be politically damaging. So, yeah, they've been talking about this technology for decades. Decades. And if I'd thought about it earlier, I would have pulled up the audio clip I have here of Robert F. Kennedy. He was out to dinner, and somebody had a video happening with their phone or something. And one of the things that he said, and gosh, I don't think I'd have time to find it right now, but one of the things that he said is that the CV, the COVID virus, shall we say, basically attacked. What's that word? It left certain people unscathed. It was basically designed to go after the blacks and Caucasians and leave the Japanese and the Chinese and the I hate to say the word, but the Jews. Yeah, anybody of that heritage, of that lineage. So this is interesting stuff. I mean, 30 years ago, it was all, this is what we could do if we had the technology. But now they do have the technology. So how do you think they're going to use it? Whenever they come across a new technology or some, major scientific breakthrough, the first thing the government does is try to figure out how to weaponize it. And it's, they do that with everything. So, anyway, now in other news, Venezuela, of course, is in the news. Everybody's talking about, are we going to go to war with Venezuela because of the drugs, because of the drugs, because of the drugs, the drugs, because of the drugs? Well, you know what? Maybe it's not about the drugs. Maybe it has something to do with the 2020 election. Maybe it has something to do with the Smartmatic machines and the Dominion machines, which we now know were indeed connected to the internet, and they shouldn't have been. Maybe it has something to do with all the data that was being funneled through Venezuela and over into Europe. And maybe it has something to do with the elections, not just in this country, but in other countries around the world, all being manipulated by certain machines that were designed and developed by people who do not have our best interests in mind. Is that possible? Well, I did play an audio clip last week. Patrick Byrne had a contribution about this issue in Venezuela, and I'm going to play it right now. Here it is.
He's given stuff that made Mike Flynn turn white when he heard it. And it takes a lot to make Mike Flynn turn white. Let me tell you, it takes a lot to shock him.
So let's talk about some of that stuff that would make you turn white. He alludes to much of that. It was not a very long memo, but very detailed and substantive in what he says he and the Venezuelan government has done. I already highlighted the passage where he says there are spies that have been planted over the decades in the United States in key positions, but along with that, we have American traitors. We have Americans who have taken money, diplomats and CIA officers, to assist the Chavez, then Maduro regimes, and some of them are still active. I am told he is more than willing to name names, and there are dozens. Let's start there, and then we'll get to the other explosive information he shares.
Yeah, explosive information. Yeah, well, there's also a letter from, let me see. I think it was the Dallas Express that broke this story last week about an individual very highly placed in the government in Venezuela, and he's basically whistleblowing right now. He wrote a 3-page letter, and he wants to participate and cooperate with the United States in taking control of Venezuela. Here's what his letter said.
Hi, everyone. I'm Heather with the Dallas Express. And straight from a U.S. federal prison cell, the man once called the most dangerous spy in Latin America has just sent President Trump a chilling 3-page confession and warning. He says Venezuela didn't just collapse into chaos. It declared war on America with drugs, gangs, spies, and even your vote. And the proof starts right now. The Dallas Express has exclusively obtained a bombshell letter written by retired Venezuelan Major General Hugo Carvajal Barrios, once the powerful director of military intelligence for both Hugo Chavez and Nicolas Maduro, and a central figure in the notorious Cartel de los Sols. Extradited from Spain after years on the run, Carvajal pleaded guilty earlier this year to narco-terrorism conspiracy charges in New York federal court. Now, in a letter dated December 2nd, 2025, and delivered through his attorney, a former senior Justice Department prosecutor, Robert Fatel, Carvajal says he is writing from prison to atone and to expose what he calls a decades-long state-sponsored campaign to target the United States. He describes the Maduro regime as a full-fledged narco-terrorist organization that deliberately weaponizes cocaine with help from Colombia's FARC guerrillas, ELN, Cuban intelligence, and Hezbollah. He says he was personally present when the regime created and later exported violent gangs, specifically Tren de Aragua, and took advantage of Biden-era open border policies to send thousands of armed operatives into American cities with orders to kidnap, extort, and kill. Carvajal further alleges 20 years of Venezuelan and Cuban infiltration inside U.S. institutions, including East Coast naval bases, and claims some American officials were paid to keep the regime in power. Now, in one of the most stunning sections of this letter, he states Smartmatic originated inside Venezuela as a tool to manipulate elections under his direct oversight. Technology later exported to the United States that he insists can be altered and has been used to rig votes. He closes by declaring full support for President Trump's Venezuela policy, calling it essential to American national security, and offering to deliver additional classified details to federal authorities. The U.S. government continues to offer a $50 million reward for Nicolas Maduro's arrest. Now, this is a rapidly developing story with massive national security implications. So for the complete, unedited letter, exclusive follow-up reporting, and real-time updates the moment they break, download the new Dallas Express app right now in your app store. Push notifications are on by default, so you'll never miss an update.
The Dallas Express. Okay, I'm going to have to check that out and see what the updates are, because that if that's what's going on, this is huge. This is explosive, and it'll also shed a little bit more light on why we have so much attention being placed on Venezuela right now. So, anyway, let's see. Do I have time? No, I don't have enough time for that. I was when I started the show today, I was mentioning that for this past weekend, I was kind of out of touch. I wasn't on my computer. I wasn't checking up on anything because I was tied up doing a presentation of it was a recreation of the 1939 radio broadcast with Orson Welles and Lionel Barrymore, and of course it was Charles Dickens' A Christmas Carol. And so anyway, we were doing shows all this past weekend, Thursday night, Friday night, 2 shows Saturday, 2 shows yesterday, and they recorded all of the shows, and they're going to take the best recording, and it will be played live on, well, not live, that'll be recorded, of course, but they will be playing it on Christmas Eve at 8 o'clock Mountain Time. So I will get the specifications on exactly when that is going to be brought. Well, yeah, it'll be 8 o'clock Mountain Time. It's I'll get the radio station or the call letters or something, or a link. And if you've got family, you've got some kids, and they want to participate in listening to the Christmas Carol as it was done in 1939, I'll get you that information as the date approaches. Okay, that said, yes, it's too late to get started with anything else, so we're going to wrap this Monday edition of the WTF Reports up and invite you to there we go. All right, I want to invite you to click like, share, and subscribe if you're listening on Rumble or BitChute or Facebook or YouTube or whatever, and get the word out. Because, hey, the truth is never easy to find. So if it's so easy to sit on your couch and use your remote and look at, ABC, CNN, the Alphabet Networks, or even OAN or Newsmax or News Nation, If it's that easy, how much truth could you find there? So you got to think outside of the cage. Anyway, that said, that does it for today's Monday installment. I hope you're enjoying the show, and I thank you for your listenership. So until tomorrow, God bless you all. Stay safe, stay free, and I'll see you tomorrow.